Welcome everyone to tonight's class on the Ajna Chakra and intuition. Before we get started, first of all, our good old housekeeping slides. Here at EAN, you can study astrology with us 3 different ways: our free weekly audio podcast, our astral library, and our multimedia course. Here is a slide on our astral library. This is where we have collected 12+ years of material by myself and other evolutionary astrologers. You can subscribe for 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, or you can do a monthly recurring that you can cancel at any time. Here's our multimedia course. As you can see, there are 3 different segments that we currently offer through our website. Segment 1 has a live monthly class, and segment 2 has live classes periodically depending on interest and subject matter. You can also get segments 1 and 2 digital versions only, binder and DVD materials only, or you can get both digital and physical materials with DVD, segments 1 and 2. And so here you can see again, we are going to study the Ajna Chakra and intuition. The first, dozen slides are pretty much the same throughout this series, so I'll do them pretty quickly. Here is a list of various chakra books that have been written over the last 100 years. If you're curious or interested in reading more, most of the information that I get, other than the evolutionary astrology teachings, are taken from Anna Judith's Wheels of Life. We are looking at the 7 major chakras throughout this series. There are more than those 7 major chakras. However, the number 7 has a lot of significance throughout all kinds of various philosophies, and you can see some of them on your screen here to look at. Now, these chakras originate from Eastern philosophies. They're known to be the consciousness behind manifestation within the body. In other words, the chakras are the nerve centers, the wheels of life that vitalize the physical body. Eastern philosophies tend to be more concerned with the higher chakras, which is more consciousness, over the lower chakras, which is more the material world. And in Western philosophies, we tend to be the opposite. Here is a slide to show you the list of the chakras and the fact that they can be numbered either direction. The most common way of knowing them is starting with the root chakra as number 1 and going up through number 7 to the crown chakra. Here is the picture of all the different chakras. Also, these the ones that I use are the drawings by Anna Judith. The nerve centers we're working with the Ajna chakra is the carotid plexus. You guys know I butcher words. And the endocrine system is the pineal gland.
Carotid.
Carotid?
Yes.
Well, I never would have got that one.
As in the carotid artery, yeah. So that's in the neck area, the carotid artery. Yeah, I assume that's similar to that. Yeah.
Well, and when I get to that little medicinal staff, I need you to tell me how to pronounce that one too, Leroy. So, Kundala is basically a Sanskrit word for coiled. Kundalini was a Hindu goddess known as the sleeping serpent, who was coiled 3.5 times around the root chakra. The Kundalini energy travels up the Sushumna, awakening each chakra and transforming its energy as it rises upward. The Sushumna is the vertical column of energy current from the base of the spine to the crown. The Ida and Pingala are energy currents traveling in figure 8s around each chakra. And what we'll learn today with the 6th one is that they both meet at the Ajna Chakra. Jeffrey Green in his teachings would call this chakra the medulla ajna. So more on that as we move along here. I've already forgotten from last class. Caduceus?
Kundalini and caduceus.
Caduceus. All right. So as you can see here, as we look at the Sushumna, the straight energy current, here it is on the caduceus. And you can see the Ida and Pingala traveling around here, meeting again at the Ajna Chakra. The same thing is happening here. Now, the chakra energy runs both direction, and wholeness is being able to balance all the chakras and run the energy either direction, however it's needed. And when we run the energy from the root to the crown chakra, this is known as the liberation direction. And when we run the energy from the crown chakra down to the root, that is known as the manifestation direction. Now, from the perspective of EA, there is an actual Kundalini gland, and it is at the base of the spine behind the root chakra. And the intention of the Kundalini hormone is to penetrate the nucleus of any and all cells in order to purge toxins, in order to heal, and alchemically change the consciousness of any cell. When we start to raise the Kundalini energy, we can have intense heat or cold. We can have shaking spasms. We can have transitory paralysis. We purge both physical contaminants and cellular memories from other lifetimes when we have the Kundalini energy start to rise and expand up the chakra system. And that Kundalini also can create any manner of physical symptoms that are not easily diagnosed by traditional medicine. There are various experiences of psycho-emotional and psycho-anatomical states that will arise with the Kundalini energy. And what we really want to do is to allow these states to take place and reflect upon them and what do they mean. And many of these experiences will orientate from other lifetimes, and they will be re-experienced in this life. And when there is a repetition of inner-outer circumstances, the deja vu from past lives doing it again this life, it means that there are issues, or there is something about an issue that has not been resolved completely. There is also a popular myth that Kundalini is related to sexuality, and that is only because the sacral chakra is a couple inches above the root chakra, and as that energy rises, that is the next chakra that the Kundalini energy affects. In reality, sometimes there is an increase of sexual energy with Kundalini rising and expansion. However, sometimes there's a decrease of sexual energy. And as we study this chakra system and we look at it from the perspective of health and wellness, it is a secondary system to all of the basic planetary rulerships in regards to health and wellness. And when we combine our chakra knowledge with the planetary rulership, it expands our ability to be able to intuit exactly what's going on within the body in regards to areas of weakness and strength. In general, stressful aspects show weakness, non-stressful aspects tend to show strength, and the inconjunct aspect, both waxing and waning, is known to be an area to look for in regards to health crises. And of course, as you see on your screen here, all rules have exceptions. We need to do that observe and correlate here. Here is a picture from Jeffrey Wolf Green's original book on Uranus, where he is showing how he has put together the rulerships by planets of the 7 major chakras. And as you look at this Ajna Chakra that we're going to work with here, you see we have 2 co-rulers, Moon and Sun. And this is the Ida Pingala right here. This graph does not show them meeting at the crown chakra, which is what they actually do. Now, this chakra has many different names. Sometimes it's called the third eye. I've come up with intuition. I think Leroy in his advertisings put inner guidance. We'll work with all of these types of concepts, but as you can see here again, we have the 2 co-rulers, the moon, the sun. The sound that comes through is the Om, with the emphasis on the M. And here again is a picture of what the Ajna Chakra looks like. Its color is indigo. It is the 6th longest wavelength and the 6th slowest vibration on the visible spectrum. The word Ajna is known as to perceive and to command. And perceive and perception is the passive part of this chakra, and command is the active part, actively creating, actively seeing. This chakra is the ability to know and see. And some of its key expressions, according to Anadia Judith: light, color, seeing, imagination, visualization, clairvoyance, hologram. She didn't have a lot of things for distortions, and so I had a couple of words that I added in. You know, she gave some physical ones. I'll show those later, but I think the distortions are if we're not in clairvoyance, if we can't see beyond the physical seeing. It includes physical seeing, and it includes excuse me, metaphysical seeing as well. When we can't do that, we can have a blindness, not just physical blindness, but being blind to what's going on around us. And to me, as I was prepping, it also seemed like we could have a lot of confusion as well if we're not into our clarity. Excuse me. And so again, this chakra is also known as the third eye chakra, which is an etheric organ of psychic perception. And the third eye is known to be floating inside the head between the 2 physical eyes. Now, this is the only chakra or nerve center excuse me, that actually resides within the brain. And that third eye is known as the psychic tool of the brain, whereas our 2 physical eyes are the physical tools of the brain. Excuse me, please, I'm going to have a cough drop. All of these eyes perceive together. They work, the third eye works with the 2 physical eyes. And the third eye works to intuit or understand what the 2 physical eyes see. And so as we start to explore this chakra, what we will learn is that this chakra gives us an ability to quote-unquote see the astral plane, to see the chakras and their energy and their colors and their shifting colors, to see precognition, to see the future, to do remote viewing. And this chakra specifically rules clairvoyance, which again is to see things beyond that manifested physical plane. So this chakra is a balance between being able to literally physically see things and to intuitively see things. This chakra is known as visual perceptions. Remember that key phrase Ajna is to perceive. So when we have these visual perceptions, they can be translated then into language, into actions, into thoughts, into emotions, into all kinds of different ways of being and doing in our world. To me, this Ajna chakra is how we make sense of so much of our world. Now, both Anadea Judith and Jeffrey Green's teachings in EA hold this a bipolarity chakra. And from Anadea Judith's perspective, it's basically being able to know the polarity of light and dark and everything in between, which will make up all the colors of the rainbow. Now, as we went and started at the root chakra and started going up the chakras, you see these light colors in the background. They all started having more and more and more petals as we go up until we get to the Ajna chakra, which is known to have 2 petals, one on either side. These 2 petals show up in the caduceus, and it is what gives us that ability to fly. And here, talking about the third eye, the ability to fly means that ability to see, that ability to perceive. And that ability to perceive then is what lets us have all of this movement and understanding in our world. It's what allows us to cognitively and intuitively put everything together. These 2 petals are also known to represent the polarity of the 2 worlds, manifested and unmanifested. They also are representative of the nadis, Ida and Pingala, these 2 serpents twisting, that again meet at this chakra. And they also can be the 2 physical eyes that surround the all-knowing third eye, the triangle with pointing downward with the light of the third eye in the center of it. I thought it was fascinating how this modern day symbol has such ancient wisdom teachings behind it. Now, color is produced by variations in the wavelengths of light. And the visible spectrum is the 7 colors of the rainbow, which match up to those 7 chakras. And so for those of you who have been following the series from red to orange to yellow to green to blue to indigo to purple when we get up into the crown chakra. Color is well known to have a psychological effect on humans. And as a matter of fact, in our busybody Western world, who of us have heard of various retail industries using specific colors to either have us speed up and move through fast or to have us relax and slow down? The lower chakra colors, the red, orange, yellow, they're known to move us through anything faster, to excite us, to have us active and moving. Whereas as we move into the higher chakras here, green, blue, indigo, they're known to be relaxing colors, calming colors. Now, light itself can have negative and positive effects. It's well known that fluorescent lights that have no ultraviolet light to them, which is light beyond what we can see as color, has a very negative effect on us. And then the full spectrum sunlight is known to have a very positive effect on us. And you know, how many of you use the soft, they call it the soft white light that you can put in your, as bulbs in all your lights in the house, or the daylight spectrum that you can go with. And a few years ago, Leroy and I bought a couple of the daylight full spectrum lights, and we loved it so much that we went through our entire house and put in the daylight full spectrum bulbs throughout the house. And I won't buy anything else anymore. I just love it. It feels so natural. I've noticed it, you know, just for us here in the house. We can also learn to use the color visualizations in order to heal each of the chakra. When we get to the clairvoyance of the Ajna Chakra, and we learn to see the chakras, to see auras, which we all have the ability to do. We've just lost touch with it because we're so caught up in verbally communicating. We're so caught up in using language rather than our visual abilities. We've lost that ability to see the chakras and the auras and the colors. And one of these slides here, you know, one of the most natural ways to bring this back is to just practice closing your eyes and feeling the colors of your chakras. Feeling, seeing without sight, colors of someone else's chakras. When you can see the actual chakras, rarely are they lined up in all of these natural colors, because all of us will be going through various things in our world. Frustrations of not being able to find the broadcast button. You know, the neighbor ringing the doorbell as I'm getting online to teach this class, and having to quick get up, go answer the door, talk to the neighbor, got to get back to class. You know, we have all kinds of bombardments in our world that have these chakras changing color constantly. And so when we calm ourselves down, close our eyes, practice on visualizing each of these different chakras, what we're doing is we're working to line up all of these colors right here as we've been learning them throughout this series. So again, color is really just variation of wavelengths. And there are wavelengths that are slower than the colors that we can see physically with the eye. And there are wavelengths of light that are faster than the colors that we can see with our eye. Light in general travels 186,000 miles per second. I mean, this is a little fact that we've probably all known in school since we were in grade school. But when you start to wrap your mind around that from the perspective of the chakras, what we learn to recognize is that light and the speed at which it travels, it transcends our sense of time. And what we start to work with here with the Ajna Chakra is transcending the sense of time, moving beyond those limitations of space-time. According to Anadia Judith, this chakra relates to the pineal gland. It's a little different in the world of EA, but I can see the similarities both ways. The pineal gland by Rene Descartes, whoever that is, she was the one who called the pineal gland the seat of the soul. We'll learn this a little differently here in a few more slides. But what she really spoke to is the fact that the pineal gland produces melatonin. And melatonin is the chemical that creates the pigmentation color in our cells. White skin, red skin, brown skin, yellow skin, black skin. What shade are we going to be? It's the melatonin that creates that. Melatonin also, though, is the hormone that is triggered by exposure to light. So people who have trouble sleeping, many times your natural sleeping remedies will contain melatonin. It helps calm down the brain, it helps calm down the mind, and it actually helps our consciousness leave the body, going into that dream world. In evolutionary astrology, the pineal gland is ruled by Neptune. And so in natural law or natural ways of being, this is why we have the need to sleep in a darkened room, because light will decrease this melatonin, dark will increase it. It is also why, as humans, we naturally need less sleep at full moons. That moon is such reflected light, it causes us to sleep less. And at new moons, we need more sleep because there is no moon, there is no reflected light, and the bodies produce more melatonin. So when we lived closer to nature and didn't have our modern world with lights at a flip of a switch, we would get into these lunar cycles with our sleep patterns. And we would sleep more at a new moon, sleep less at a full moon, and we would cycle back and forth with that naturally. Here is the slide that I've used in a couple of different of these chakra series. Again, from the perspective of EA, the pineal gland, which is located right here. This is ruled by Neptune, and it produces the melatonin, which is what allows us to also expand in consciousness. So when we learn to meditate, when we practice meditating, this chakra, the Ajna Chakra, which is going to be located right in this area here, this is the gland that gets activated. And when we produce melatonin, again, we expand consciousness. We feel like we can expand out of the body. Now, Jeffrey has taught that there's a triune of energy between these three glands. Here's the hypothalamus right here. Here's the pituitary gland, the master gland of growth and decay. And here is the pineal gland. So it goes pineal, hypothalamus, pituitary, and goes back and forth. And so here is the directions that these three glands have with an effect on each other. And you can see this from the screen and how this works and what each of these glands do. Now, the Ajna Chakra, another key word, is also the hologram. And basically a hologram, I was trying to look for simple ways of being able to understand this. And for me, any one part of anything contains the entirety of the whole. That's the simplest explanation of what I can understand with this. You start to look at it from a physics perspective. It is a three-dimensional image created with a photographic projection. The term is taken from the Greek words holos, which means whole, and gamma, which means message. So I brought up this old Star Wars thing. Remember the first Star Wars when Luke Skywalker was talking to Princess Leia, and they would, I don't remember the details of the movie, but you get the sense of what I'm talking about. This is a projected hologram of her. This is not her physically. This was her being projected holographically so that they could see and communicate with each other. But when we look at this explanation right here, any one part of anything contains the entirety of the whole. It's the way you could also look at it is if you would take a leaf and you would break off a part of it. The part you broke off contains everything that the whole leaf is contained with. And you can do this with anything. You can do this with any living consciousness. A part of it is a hologram of the whole thing. Now, there is the theoretical physicist David Bohm. He's written a lot on this, so if you want to read more about this, he is someone whom you can study. And he basically believes that the entire universe is a hologram. And we as human beings, as an individual human being, contain the entirety of the universe within us. So we're starting to get into that metaphysical language and understanding with this chakra. This chakra, again, starts to take us beyond the physical body, beyond the physical senses. This is the chakra where we start to go beyond perception of space and time and can recognize past, present, future, all at the same time. For instance, this chakra is also known as visual information. Again, that's the two physical eyes to physically see something, and the third eye to make sense of what we're seeing, and that all works together. Well, with this chakra and anything that we go to perceive, it's non-linear. It's not linked to being stuck in space-time. And here were some of the examples that Anadia gave. We can have a direct perception of something in the present time. We can have a memory, which can be something from the past. We can have our imagination. And imagination can work past, present, and future. We can have our dreams, which is what she would call dream time. We can dream the past, we can dream the future, we can dream the present. Precognition is looking into the future. And of course, with these examples, they can all overlap. We can have Again, a memory that can be both past and present. We can dream and use our imagination. So in other words, as we start to perceive things with the Ajna Chakra, we transcend, go beyond space and time. It doesn't mean that the chakra can't be present in the present moment. It easily can be. It is all the time. But it can also go beyond it. And they have found that humans with sight receive 90% of the information about any object or subject through the eyes. It is the most active of those 5 physical senses. And of course here, the sense of sight then also combines with that 6th sense, the intuition. So it is the mind-brain that interprets electrical impulses in the optic nerves of the eye into meaningful patterns. The eyes really don't take in light. They transfer light into an electrical impulse in the optic nerve, and we learn to make sense of that as we evolve through life. For example, they say that people who are born blind and through surgical means are given the ability to have sight later on in life. At first, the only thing they can see is white light because they have no memory of turning those electrical impulses into objects. So this Ajna Chakra, or the intuition chakra, is totally related to psychism, which is the perception of information in the non-material realm and an ability to make conscious use of that perception. Now here's Anadia's rulerships in regards to clairvoyance, the 6th or Ajna chakra. She feels clairaudience belongs to the 5th or throat chakra, and she feels that clairsentient belongs to the 2nd or sacral chakra. I thought that was interesting. I would have thought that'd be the 3rd or 4th chakra, but she relates it to the 2nd. And so again, if we really want to practice on our clairvoyance or any of these, to really bring that ability to activate that Ajna chakra, to activate our intuition, our psychic abilities, our clairvoyance, our ability to see with the 3rd eye. One of the best ways to do it is with our physical eyes closed. So we don't have the distractions of everything going on in our world. She also gives a quote from Bob Samples, the metamorphic mind. The metamorphic mind includes rationality, linearity, and logic, for it created them. But like some children, the rational mind often seems embarrassed by the presence of its parents. I thought that was an interesting quote. In other words, when we move beyond that rational mind, we move into the all-seeing mind, the beyond physical mind, which is what this chakra is. Its tendency is again to be very visual. And we taking this word metaphoric into metaphors, look at how we use metaphors to communicate in our world. Think of a few of them. We call them cliches. It's raining cats and dogs. Crime in Italy. Crime in Italy is a metaphor in the Weimar world, specifically Leroy's mother. And how many of you have you ever heard that? Crime in Italy. And it's an expression for exasperation or emphasis. And we didn't know this, but his mother taught us that it's really the phrase crime in Italy. Crime in Italy, which is, again, emphasis, exasperation. So we all have the different ways of using metaphors then to go beyond just language and words and to expand our understanding of things. Now she says that the Ajna or third eye chakra correlates to the nerves emanating from the middle region of the brain. The eyes, the head, the pineal gland, the sinuses. And as I, prepped for this class and I thought about it, it's the only chakra in the brain. I would say that it would have some rulership with all the nerves in the brain. But I can see where they would all come from that middle region of the brain. Now, starting to look at this from the perspective of evolutionary astrology and the Ajna chakra with its co-rulers, the moon and the sun. Again, Jeffrey called this the medulla Ajna chakra. And it's a bipolar chakra. And he said moon had rulership of the medulla, which comes from that primary part of the brain, and the sun has rulership of the ajna, which is, again, that perception part of the brain. The third eye is the projection of the medulla and perceived in an area known as the third eye or the forehead. And this is exactly how he would relate it to the ego and the moon as the lens and the projector. And so we've got to have a self-image of ourself, the moon, that is projected out there onto the universe and comes back to us in order to know ourselves. He feels that this chakra is also related to the hypothalamus, to the brainstem, to the primary brain. It starts to bring in almost the whole brain. But specifically, again, the primary brain is where consciousness emanates from. It emanates from the brain stem, the primary brain, the medulla. The primary brain is co-ruled by Moon and Mars. It is the instinctual part of the brain, or what they would sometimes call the reptilian part of the brain. Metaphysical wisdom considers the eyes to be the window of the soul. And if you've looked at some of Jeffrey's old teachings, he would say that those who had developed their psychism enough could actually look into newborn babies' eyes when they're first born and see their past lives. And Jeffrey has actually done this with his children. For those of you who know his two older children, Luke and Deva Green, when they were both born in early middle 80s, I think. I remember some old type classes of Jeffrey's when he talked about this, and as soon as they came out of the uterus and took their first breaths and opened their eyes, he immediately looked into their eyes before they started to close down, and not really close down physically, but to close down as they were born, the umbilical cords cut and they come into the world. You can actually see past lives in newborn children's eyes. This chakra has a direct linkage to the optic nerves, to the nature and quality of the eyes and the functioning of the eyes, of course. This chakra has direct linkage to the lymphatic system, the moon, and the circulatory system, the sun. These two systems work together. They are joined by the capillary system, which is where the lymph goes in and out of the blood, and the lymphatic system is the ability to eliminate any of the cellular breakdown materials and to fight off any bacterial invasions. And so these two systems again start to come into play through rulership of moon and sun with this chakra. This chakra has that specific rulership of the eyes, and I thought I would give you the visual on this according to EA's teachings. The moon rules the right eye of the woman, sun rules left eye, and it's exactly the opposite with men. Moon rules left eye for men and right eye for the woman. And so how I always work with this, because you can go back and forth and you just, bipolar, start to get confused. All I do is remember that the moon rules the right eye of the woman. Just remember one thing. Moon rules the right eye of the woman. And from there, the other rulerships will fall into place for you. And so the moon's rulership of this chakra is why Jeffrey, again, he called it the medulla Ajna chakra. And so the medulla part ruled by the moon, again, correlates with the lymphatic system. The function of the lymphatic system is to isolate and remove toxins. The lymphatic system will swell when the body has a high degree of toxicity. The moon rules, co-rules, I should say, all the containers of the body. The moon specifically rules the stomach and duodenum, if I've got that correctly, and the digestive system. It co-rules all containers of the body. I thought I had, oh yeah, here it is, right here. Moon rules all fluids in the body. It specifically rules water, and it co-rules any of the other fluids. And so anywhere we have a container within the body that holds a fluid, the moon comes into co-rulership here. But the moon has specific rulership of the quantity and quality of water in the body. And the moon also rules acidity and alkalinity balance of the body and water in the body. And again, as I said, it specifically rules stomach, duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine immediately beyond the stomach, and it rules the digestive system and the digestive enzymes. It has co-rulership of the pancreas, and the pancreas's creating of digestive enzymes. Enzyme and insulin imbalances are causative factors in improper levels of bacteria. And when we have improper levels of bacteria, it can allow candida, the fungus, to exist. It can create colitis because we don't have healthy bacteria in the intestinal body. Moon specifically rules mucus, again, fluids. And mucus in the body is for releasing toxins. And the sinuses, which, as many of us know, the sinuses are right below the eyes on either side of the nose. And the sinus's role is to produce mucus to release the toxins that we breathe in from the air. So allergies start to be ruled by the moon as well, looking at it from this perspective. And I could hear you sneeze, Leroy. We actually do these webinars upstairs, downstairs, 2 different rooms with a door closed and walls and stairs. I heard you sneeze. This chakra, with the moon's part of it, rules imbalances in the chemical composition of digestive fluids in the mouth, which can lead to gum disease, an accelerated breakdown of enamel on teeth, and bad breath. Some of the distortions that can come from the co-rulership by the moon of this chakra: ulcers, gas, loss of appetite, deficient or extreme secretion of digestive enzymes from the pancreas, which causes constipation or diarrhea, lymphatic swellings with high white blood cell counts, problems with ovaries or uterus, problems with the testicles or prostate swellings. Now, I put this in because of the moon's rulership of all the water in the body and that acid alkalinity. This right here, if you can't read this, this is symbolizing the body, which is 70% water, the blood, 85% water, our brain, 80% water, our muscles, 75% water, and every cell in the body, 90% water. So if you really look at the moon's rulership of water, I mean, you look at how close. The moon is the closest object we have to our experience here on planet Earth. We know how the moon affects the tides and the moods with full moon. But do we recognize how much effect it has on our health and how important water is? And one of the things that has happened for Leroy and I in this last year of our life, it was what, about a year ago, I think it was, Leroy, that we purchased a water machine. And the water machines now, and Leroy, you might come in because you're going to be able to explain this much better than me. It's a machine that you hook up to your faucet and it alkalizes water. But beyond alkalizing the water, it ionizes it, correct?
Yeah, there's a process that goes on that basically increases the pH, or it can also have the ability to decrease and acidize the water for cleaning purposes. But yeah, these water ionizer machines are basically a way to put a lot of electrolytes, a lot of antioxidants into your body, into your water. Your body uptakes hydration much more effectively and efficiently because it's activated, it's active, it's more readily available. When you look at water, and there's a great book written by a guy named Emoto out of Japan, Messages of Water, and you can see various clustering in polluted water, dirty water, other types of water. And then there's these clean waters, you know, from the Himalayas and the mountains of Japan that is so hexagonally shaped. It's beautiful when you look at it on a molecular level. Well, these machines actually do that. They declusterize the water, make it, again, you can dial in your pH balance, you can dial in your, on the low side, your acidic levels for cleaning purposes, etc. But we're all more acidic than we need to. So for drinking purposes, and the purpose of this class with this slide is to help us to alkalinize our systems, and so basically reduce the oxidation process in the human body, because oxidation is really what leads to things like degradation of the physical tissues, cancer, imbalances, those types of things. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that. I actually, you know, have this issue with a high PSA count, higher than I want, and I've reduced that PSA count in my own blood by 30%. Just I think I largely attribute it to the alkalinized water.
Oh gosh, I never had put that 2 and 2 together. Wow. Well, if any of you are interested in these various types of alkalizing, ionizing machines, Leroy has actually started selling them as a new little business, something for him with a friend of his. That's his Pisces midheaven, with Neptune crossing over the midheaven into his 10th house. He got into the water business. So if any of you want more information on that, you can send him an email, mediamonk@evolutionaryastrology.net. Anything else?
No, thank you for that plug. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll be happy to respond objectively about all the different types of machines, and also the machine that I kind of think is the best one out there and chose to represent. But everybody has different needs. Everybody has different amounts of water that they, you know, big families versus single people, etc. So, you know, I've really, there's a lot to cover out there, and the more you search on the internet, the more confusing it gets. So, you know, we've kind of went through that entire process, and part of my intent is to clarify that for anybody, you know, either for their own purposes or for those of family and friends.
And so you can see how the better quality of water that we intake, what effect it can have on the Ajna Chakra, what effect it can have on our intuition, our third eye, our ability to perceive, and our ability to command our world. Now, the Ajna part of the chakra with the sun's rulership will correlate to the overall, overall needs to be in there, I got the overall sense of constitutional strength or vitality. And health is known to be a reflection of our inner radiance, our inner strength, our inner vitality, how we as an individual are shining. So the condition of the sun in a chart is a primary indicator of our overall constitutional strength. If you have your sun in stressful aspects, squares, oppositions, you can include inconjuncts, you can include semi-squares and sesquisquadrates, whatever other planets it is making the stressful aspect to, between the sun and that planet, it can tell you where there might be a decrease in vitality. The sun rules the heart as an organ. When we have these stressful aspects to our sun, it can have effects on the sparking of our heartbeat. It could have some effects on the overall heart diseases. I'll name a few of those on the next slide. So sun has rulership of blood pressure, both high blood pressure and low blood pressure. Any of you who belong to the Pluto in Leo generation, those born between actually 1936, 37, 38 up to 1956, 57, anywhere in between there, your Pluto and Leo generation, you're the baby boomers, but you know, you're the generation, at least here in the West, that is known to have heart disease. You know, heart disease is the #1 killer of the westernized world. And it's really come into prominence and awareness through this generation, and sun having rulership of Leo. So the Pluto in Leos, you specifically are a generation that wants to take care of your heart. And so you can actually look to the chart and you can look to see stressful aspects, non-stressful aspects, and perhaps have some ideas of other areas within your body that you might want to take care of to then help you improve health and wellness of your heart. You know, one of the medical doctors that I follow, alternative medical doctor, is a gentleman by the name of Jim Mercola. M as in mother, E-R-C-O-L-A. Dr. Mercola, as he's known. And I can't remember if I've said this on class before or not. Apologies if I'm repeating myself. I tell a lot of individuals, so I forget whom I say what to. But I subscribe to Dr. Mercola's email list, and he's very good at sending out an email a day, and I don't have time for that kind of stuff. And so I went to unsubscribe from his list. And while I was unsubscribing, they go, oh, by the way, would you like us to recap all of these articles and just send them to you once a week? Yes. And so I do recommend subscribing to him. He goes by the research, but he's not afraid to. He's on the leading edge. I've read him for years, and I have watched mainstream medicine and allopathic world shift positions that agree with him as time goes by. For instance, he was one of the first few people to advocate high-intensity workouts, really working out the lungs and the heart as fast as you can for 30 seconds and then resting 90 seconds, or a minute and resting 4 minutes. You know, you can vary it. He is, the reason I'm saying this is because he is a very, very strong advocate of healthy fats, and saying that the whole issue around heart disease, we've got it wrong. It's not the cholesterol issue. It's really having healthy levels of fat in the body, and that we need higher percentages of fat than what they recommend. And it's extremely important to the brain and to the functioning of the brain as well. So I won't get into any details, but he is someone who can, I mean, he believes in it like a DASH diet. DASH is an acronym for you know, healthy proteins like some fish, organic fish, chicken, lots of fruits and vegetables, but in addition to that, a lot of healthy fats. And so I refer you to his website. I'm sure it's probably, I don't know, you can just research Jim Mercola and you will find it. Again, M as in mother, E-R-C-O-L-A, Dr. Jim Mercola. But he's actually he's the only medical doctor, alternative or traditional, that I basically follow. And so the sun has rulership of the spinal cord. And remember the Sushumna that runs up the spinal cord. So the sun's going to have an effect on all of that. It co-rules the spine with Saturn. And the sun will create a natural stress that results from the conflict between needing to individualize our self, ego, soul, and the need to merge back with divine ego, which is source itself. And so again, sun is creative self-actualization in evolutionary astrology's term. And so that sense of identity and vitality is in conflict with the need to merge with source energy. And we're always working to balance that and eventually merge back with source energy. So here's some of the distortions that, you know, come along through the sun's rulership here. All the heart diseases, heart attacks, fluctuating blood pressure, heart inflammation, enlarged heart, congenital heart failure with the moon. Congenital heart failure, if I'm correct here, is fluids in the heart, and moon rules all the fluids. Heart murmurs, loss of energy, constitutional fatigue, backaches due to the rulership of the spinal cord and spine, dislocated vertebrae, it probably co-rules that with Saturn, sunburns, high fevers, burns in general, boils, and of course co-rules all the inflammations with the moon. So look at how we also are looking at in our westernized world how stress itself has such an effect on a lack of health, how inflammation has such an effect upon the lack of health. Can you see how much is co-ruled by sun and moon? I mean, sun, energy, heart, and moon, fluids, water, swellings, lymph, you know, all of that. You can just see how between the two of them, there's such an effect on our overall health and vitality and an ability to have a healthy, functioning medulla ajna chakra, to having a healthy ability to perceive our world and command, create our world. All right, so that's my slides. I'm just going to check in for a moment here and see if anybody has any comments or questions on anything that I said or that I didn't say that I may have forgotten. You're welcome to ask questions. And Leroy, I don't know if I told you, but our volunteer is the same volunteer as last month. She sweetly volunteered for the throat chakra, and now she's back because I had seen her sun-moon square in her chart last month and asked her if she would volunteer again. And
of course, yeah.
so,
I know who it is.
okay. Questions from anybody before moving on? Take a drink. All right. If we don't have any questions, Leroy, if our volunteer's on, perhaps you can unmute her, and I will give us a few quick background information again. I think I hear our volunteer.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're unmuted. All right. Welcome and thank you, honey, very much. And so let me just share with everybody that, again, for the sake of the tape, September 18th, 1950, 10:37 a.m., Sioux City, Iowa, 16 degree Scorpio rising. In terms of this class, she has Sun at 25 degrees Virgo. It is conjunct the south node of the moon at 28 Virgo. It is in a conjunction with Saturn at 23, Mercury at 22. The moon is over here at 22 degrees Sag, tight square to Mercury, but in orb to being a square to the sun. This volunteer feels that she is third individuated to first spirituated, found metaphysics pretty early on. She's middle class. Her parents, let me see if I'm remembering this correctly. Parents divorce, dad spent mom's inheritance. There's a younger brother. Your dad's, I think your dad's grandfather was rageaholic. Mom, strict Irish Catholic upbringing. Mom lost an older sister when she was young. Her parents were quite abusive towards her. Mother was a nurse. Our volunteer is a nurse. Our volunteer never was married, got pregnant. There were those who tried to talk you into an abortion, and you said no way, and raised your son as a single parent, and he's now in a new relationship, and you know, your son and his partner are your joy.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So as we've been doing with these, if it feels right for you, I'd like to just see if there's anything that sparked for you in listening to tonight's class.
Okay, I did take some notes. I feel like I'm a very visual person. I feel like I have a library in my head. I can close my eyes and like go right to, you know, whatever I'm thinking. I can just be right there. It hasn't always been that way. This is over years of meditating. I've been able to develop that. So that certainly is more active, but I'm working on my dreams now for my dreams to be a lot more important and prophetic for me. That's key. But this has all come through the practice of yoga and meditation down through the years. It was something I never had, and I remember even being in a guided meditation and not even be able to visualize color. So that third eye was not always alive in me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as far as health, my health is really, really good. I mean, when you were going over some of the effects, you know, I have, you know, really, I guess that would be my sun, even though it's conjunct Saturn.
It's this right. It's this
yeah,
right here.
With the south node. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate. I have no health problems.
Let me interject here just for other listeners to just help them. In evolutionary astrology, when a planet is conjunct the south node of the moon, There could be three possible conditions. There could be a condition of relive, having to do something over again. There can be a condition of fruition, prior efforts bringing something into fruition, manifestation in this lifetime. And there can be the combo of both, some relive, some fruition. Okay? Just and this is any planet conjunct the South Node, but I will say to you that I have been able to observe a couple of people, and this may not be everybody, but for instance, if I may, Jeffrey Green has Sun conjunct the South Node. Look at the gift that he gave us with evolutionary astrology. Some of you know that for the last 16 years, I've been involved in a spiritual technology called energetic balancing, whereby we take someone's photograph and we impart 500,000, 500,000 healing frequencies 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every single disease imbalance you can think of, balancing frequency for it, and we've added frequency after we continue to add frequencies week after week after week the entire 16 years I've been involved with this program, and it's based upon homeopathy and holographic technology, beaming these frequencies to us on a consciousness level along that physics scale beyond the physical. The creator of that technology, Sun conjunct the South Node. So you have to do the observation correlation to see if with this ego of the past, is there vitality or is there a lack of it? And so this is where I see it coming from, not to mention the fact, honey, that you have these Virgo planets here. Yeah. So, you know, like for those who weren't attending last month's class, you know, you had sent me an email at one point that I somehow just had, and the fact that you aced all your classes going to nursing school and you have no idea how you did it. You have past life effort here in the world of health and wellness. You've been the healer before. You've been the shaman. You've been, you know, to me, with these two in the 11th house, even though Saturn's in the 10th, it's still conjunct the South Node. To me, I get the impression that, you know, you were one of those souls on Atlantis, you know, trying to heal with crystals and that type of stuff. And the creator of energetic balancing, my other work, he has memories with this Sun conjunct the South Node of working with technologies in Atlantis. And he personally, I'm not saying this is you, he said, I got it wrong and I'm back to do it right this time. And so that's where that strength and vitality is coming from. Okay. Now, I do have some questions for you, if I may, but I didn't mean to interrupt if you have more you want to say.
No, that's okay. Ask away.
Well, with the moon square, do you notice any swellings? Do you notice any issues with fluids?
You know, not maybe after I've worked like a long day, I'll have a little bit of swelling from where my socks were, my ankles. No, I don't have any swelling in my hands. No, I never even really had that when I was prior to you know, menopause. You know, no, I've never had. No.
Then whatever could be stressful here with the moon square the nodes and the moon square these planets, all right, it is counteracted by this South Node conjunction with Sun. And Saturn has to come in here then and work also with creating a sense of stamina for you? Do you feel
Right.
that do you feel you have good stamina? I mean, more the nursing profession, more or less, you're on your feet, and I've had a few nurse friends, and like I had one who decided to work 3 12-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And this was years ago, and she did not have a lot of stamina in the nursing
Right.
profession. She'd work 3 12-hour shifts, and she would need an entire day to recuperate
Mm-hmm.
before she
Mm-hmm.
could then enjoy the rest of her days off. Do you have any issues around that?
I have to say that I'm really, really fortunate. I never have. In fact, I used to, a couple years ago, I had on a travel assignment, and I would drive up to 100 miles away up to LA and work 3 nights in a row, and then sleep about a half an hour and drive back down on Sunday morning to San Diego. And then I could be up, you know. I'm really, really lucky because I have seen that in some of my other colleagues, that they just don't have the stamina, and then they abuse food, they don't exercise, they just, yeah, I've seen that. But I'm really, really fortunate that I haven't had that. Really fortunate.
Thank you for being such a good example. You know, I was picking up on this last month, and I had, okay, I got to keep my mouth shut. Don't wait till class. because you would typically look at all these Virgo planets and wonder about the stress. There's your yoga, there's your meditation, there's your actively trying to work with and activate that medulla ajna chakra.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
so that you're calming that stress down. Okay, and then again, that Sun conjunct the South Node and the Saturn bleed through with this. It's just allowing. It's again, here's the fruition factor of having prior life efforts that have just been able to allow you to bring through a stamina. Now, that's not to say for those who listened to class last month, you know, you did have the speaking issues, you know, but that's last class. This is this one, okay?
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I wanted to also, if I may, ask a question. Because this Sun South Node is 11th house, and we're working with the Ajna chakra, combining that with the 11th house, do you have any clairvoyance? Do you get any, you know, future visions? What do they call it? Precognition, as we mentioned. Do you have any of that active in you? I know you said you're working with your dreams, and you've you know, been able to bring it, you know, more visualizations that you can do now than what you used to be able to.
Right. Sometimes I really can, and I think just the whole modality of EA and just being in conversation with somebody about their chart or something, I just open my mouth and stuff just comes through. So I think that is certainly a fertile ground for me. But I'm wondering about, I feel like that has kind of been blocked, and I'm just wondering about the moon square my sun, and that whole stellium essentially.
So while the physical health is there,
yeah,
the Sun conjunct that South Node, Moon square the nodes, and the fact that you've had this Moon in Sag,
right,
you know, there are going to be, you know, this may be where, yeah, skip steps in regards to your healer shaman qualities that could be active right here, you know.
Right. Yes.
So, you know, why it's not a health and wellness, quote unquote, weakness, moon square the nodes, it's going to be the skip steps in your, some of your intuitive perceptions. You know, to me, the moon still has a strong intuition quality to it in general. As we now know, with co-rulership of medulla Ajna Chakra, that's where that's coming from. But it's also just that ability to be in touch with the senses and the emotions of the body. You know, there's a telepathic quality that comes with the sixth chakra, just like there was last month with the fifth or throat chakra. You know, here it with the Ajna chakra, it starts to be transcending time, that ability to perceive beyond space-time. So that ability to just tap into the energies of the universe. And so both sun moon can do that through this rulership of the Ajna chakra. That may be, I think, I'm thinking that's where we're seeing it stuck.
Well,
It's the moon
yeah.
square the nodes.
And yes, exactly, exactly. So I'm wondering, could that be just part of that, the relive? Because I told you in the last month that I had a very vivid time in Atlantis where I was, you know, a priestess and Atlantis was falling and my temple was, you know,
I don't remember that.
destroyed.
Thank you for saying
Yeah,
that again.
yeah, uh-huh. Could that be because of moon square the nodes and then square my sun and south node, that whole capability was just kind of shut down, shut off? Yeah. Because
Yes. Yes, yes. There's going to be probably a series of lifetimes, and there's going to be those where it went good and those where it didn't go so good. And so, yeah, if you did enough, you know, past life regressions or really, you know, worked with this chakra on your own to remember things, I think you would find both of those veins running. Because when we look at planet conjunct the south node and we look at relive, fruition, or the possibility of both, the third possibility of having both relive and fruition is by far the most common one, the most common possibility. So yes, yes. And so it looks like you said, moon square the nodes, moon square sun. Its stress for you, quote unquote, is more along that ability to really use your intuition. And
exactly, yeah.
Good for you consciously working with meditation to develop your visualization abilities.
Right. Yeah.
And I would say as you continue to do that, all right, I think just throughout the rest of this life, if that's your choice to do that, you'll be overcoming that. You'll be overcoming the relive. How far you get in that process, who knows? But you are in process of working to counteract that. If you look at where the moon is at 22, 23 degrees Sag, and you reverse through the zodiac, the resolution node is the south node, and the node is at 28. It's applying square to the moon. And the applying squares of the nodes to the moon mean that if you're not addressing this issue of moon square the nodes in this lifetime, you will be intensifying the skip steps. Whereas if the nodes were at 18 degrees and they were past the square, there'd be a little bit of an easier effort to resolve the skip steps. So the fact that the nodes are applying squares to your moon, you have to consciously put in that effort to resolve the quote-unquote skip steps. The skip steps of emotional self-reliance in general. The skip steps of trusting your own intuition and your ability to survive. Because the skip steps from the nodes here are, you don't have what it takes creatively. And you bad, guilty person. You know, you've had all that kind of conditioning stuff. And so you've really got to be able to objectify those conditioning statements and look at them so that you can find this ability to trust your own intuition and all of your own talents and resources that you have the ability to create. Okay? Understand?
Yeah.
And then that will allow this chakra, your medulla ajna chakra, to really give you some guidance with yes, this, no, that. You were going to say something? Comment, question?
I was, just talking about the ajna door, and I was remembered another, like, just spontaneous, like, past life experience I had, like, in 93 or so. I got a scrying stone, and I held onto it, and I immediately flipped into another lifetime where I was running, and I heard horses, after me, and I had that stone that I had found again. Buried it deep into the earth, and then I think that I was killed. And that scared me so much. But I can see that's an example. Would that be an example of a skip step then? Because I've never really picked up that stone and tried, just worked with it or anything. It's like still in my drawer.
It is a perfect example of the scrying stone and survival issues. Sag, second moon.
Oh, wow. I'm getting chills on that. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And those who were responsible for your demise in that lifetime, the issues are either going to be around beliefs, Virgo Pisces, or they're going to be around social class and caste differences, 11th, 5th.
Ah, okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. So that could be a real tool and a key in this life, working.
Recovering.
Yeah.
Recovering the skip steps.
Wow.
Yes. And again, really learning to trust yourself and your own emotional instincts and your ability to not only survive, but flourish and live naturally again. You could have taken on conditioned beliefs with that lifetime you're just describing of, I can't do that stuff. It'll get me killed.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So true. Yes, exactly. I think a lot of us came with that in this life.
Yeah. You could try doing, working with the chakra and just working with visualizing what can you remember, what can you sense, what can you see, what can you perceive from that lifetime to see if there's some, other bits and pieces that you can fill in and then understand it, make sense of it, ask your higher self what was the purpose of that lifetime.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Let me
Yeah.
check in with Leroy and see, is there anybody else who's listening who might have any comments or questions? Or even you, Leroy.
It remains pretty quiet on the board, so nothing coming in.
Okay. Volunteer, anything for you? Any comments, questions you have on any material or anything else that you feel led to share?
Well, I really felt my choices sometimes around are dominated by that whole idea of the skip steps. And I noticed that in myself just recently, how the situation is just kind of too much, so I'll just bounce right out of it, you know, and then I'll come back to it. I'll revisit it again. I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, you know, really, I guess, healing that, you know, is what you were talking about, or getting in touch with that. Just maybe I'm aware of the pattern.
Mm.
I've done that my whole life. Now that I've got a label on it, I've done that my whole life.
Yeah, bless EA for helping you
I know.
make sense of that pattern, because
Exactly.
that awareness then is that next step of you being able to work with healing it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you work with healing that, so what we're kind of picking up on is not so much the physical manifestation of imbalances, but the emotional manifestation of the imbalances. And as you're working through that, then that's going to allow you to be more centered in understanding this chakra and be able to activate it and have it help you be more centered. As ironic as it sounds, even though this chakra is, you know, wants to take us out of space-time, for you it can be almost grounding for you to recognize this flight or flight that you can have.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's been the theme of my life. Totally.
Hey, bless the nodal axis in Virgo Pisces and bless transiting Jupiter.
Yes. Boy.
It only has to do, no, what is it? It's going to do your Mercury and Saturn 3 times.
Yes.
Because it went retrograde just past Saturn. So you'll get those 3 times. But, you know, I would say just bless those two, because they're really working to give you a beautiful level of awareness that you might not have had prior to their transits.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm wanting to look up one more thing here, just out of curiosity. Jupiter conjuncts the North Node June 20th at 16 degrees Virgo. So it'll be within orb of Mercury and Venus. All right. Chiron in Pisces conjuncts the South Node at 22 degrees. March 23rd. What's today?
That's
21st.
It's Wednesday. It's the right. It's the full moon and the partial full moon eclipse on that day.
It's the day of the lunar eclipse. And so as you have Chiron conjunct that South Node at 22 degrees, opposing your Mercury, squaring your moon, you know, this whole week it could be a very intuitive time for you. Boy, I would be working with your medulla Ajna chakra, honey.
I plan on. And my scrying stone, too.
And your scrying stone. And what would you have me know, Source? What would you have me know? What would you have me heal? What would you have me do? Oh,
Wow.
nice. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for being willing to be the volunteer again this month. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kim Marie. This has been pretty huge for me. Thank you.
Oh, you are
Really
most
appreciate
welcome. You're most welcome, and my pleasure. And let me just check in one more time. Anybody else? Anybody have comments or questions? All right, then. I will let you all go. I thank you very much, volunteer, and I hope this is most enjoyable for everyone attending the class now and in the future, and may you all be fantastic visualizers. Thank you, everyone.